All right, I think the caffeine's kicking in. Hey, everybody. I'm Brantron. I'm a guitarist and producer located here in Nashville, Tennessee, and today we are doing the deep dive into my original song, Obsolete! Can I get a whoop whoop? We are obsolete! So we're breaking this down into 3 segments today. We're going over influences and like general mindset going into the song. Then I'm going to show you specific riffs, break those down in terms of like what the notes are and then like what the right hand is doing. And then we're going into the DAW so you can hear more specifically what's going on with the tunes. So let's get in there. So let's start with influences. My ultimate creative goal when it comes to Brantron is to combine the metal music that I like with the electronic music that I like. Some of my all-time favorite shit when it comes to electronic music is stuff like Venetian Snares, Aphex Twin, Square Pusher, Machine Girl. More recently, this guy named Lil Texas, he just put out a new record like a week or so ago, and it's fucking sick. Generally speaking, when it comes to electronic music, I find myself leaning much harder toward the faster shit, like jungle, drum and bass, breakcore, hardstyle, like that kind of thing. And then when it comes to metal, the 2 styles that probably influence me the most are tech death and then whatever the fuck Car Bomb is, like that shit. So Car Bomb is my all-time favorite metal band, hands down. And Elliot Hoffman is my all-time favorite metal drummer. Like that's my fucking guy. I have to geek out here a little bit. Imagine my surprise when I see that Elliot Hoffman ends up liking one of my memes. Like this happened very recently. I was just, oh my God, I'm such a fan. Big shout out if you're watching. When it comes to tech death, some of my all-time favorite shit is stuff like The Faceless, Necrophagist, Obscura, Decrepit Birth. More recently, The Last of Lucy, Fallujah, Zenith Passage, stuff like that. So here's something that I tend to notice with metal bands. And yes, there are exceptions, but generally this seems to be the case. Most of the time, it seems like metal bands try to keep it within that 75% range to where it's still mostly metal, right? You expect the guitars, bass, vocals, depending on the subgenre, that can change, to sound a specific way. It seems like most metal bands will allow for, at the very most, 25% of another influence, whether that be electronic music, polka, ska, whatever. And I don't say this as an insult. I say this as an observation because, like, I'm a diehard metalhead. Like, I love this shit. So my thought is, what if those ratios were flipped, right? To where that 75% sounds like a computer and a washing machine, pretty much. But then that 25% is some combination of, like, tech death riffs and Car Bomb and, like, whatever the fuck else. All right, let's talk riffs. So I'm using my 8-string LTD with 2 EMGs. I got this sucker for a deal over at Nashville Used Music. Shout out. So this first riff is really sort of like an interruption between the amen breaks. It's predominantly octaves. So the first note there is B flat. Then it goes down a tritone to E. And then it goes up a major third to G sharp. And then it goes down a tritone again to D. And then chugga chugga. So since I'm not particularly outstanding when it comes to doing vocals and guitar at the same time, I had it timed out when I was writing this to where I'm either just doing vocals or when I am doing vocals, like the guitar and the vocals are pretty much in unison. You know what I mean? Like, we are obsolete! That kind of shit. So then the next riff is sort of like a tremolo guy. And then on my magical little footboard here, I switched to a ring mod. And then it sounds like... So it's chug, 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 chug. And then almost something that kind of sounds like a slurp. Which that, if we take the ring mod off, is pretty much just 4th fret harmonic, just scraping backward. So chug, 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 slurp. So then there's this fucking guy. So sort of like a string skippy kind of thing. I use hybrid picking for it. I use this and then this finger. This finger. This finger. I see a lot of people when they're doing string skipping stuff, they might use the pick the entire time. But I just found that it was easier to hybrid pick. And you get a lot more clarity with that lower note, you know what I mean? So then the next one is mainly an F sharp augmented arpeggio, going down in groupings of 3. And then A, B flat to end it. So the whole thing would sound like this. Then it does the string skipper again, and then we get to the sweeps. It goes up F sharp minor, taps up top to the F sharp, and then up a half step. Same thing, sweep down. And then from there, more hybrid picking. So what that is, it's pretty much all fifths. So B flat, all fifths, then down a major third. You could call that G flat in terms of enharmonics. And then that same sequence down a half step. So that's A, all fifths, and then F, all fifths. And then the fucking brr, brr, brr. If you want all of the obsolete tabs, they are available now in the official Brantron Patreon, or as we call it, the BRANTREON. So let's fucking get into the DAW. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is the fact that the drums are just batshit crazy. So what I did for that is I have a Korg Volca sample that has amen breaks in it, right? And I'll program like a little 8-bar drum loop that I like. Then I'll record it straight into the DAW. So to get that really sort of like computery kind of drum sound, I use this free plugin here called Glitch. I honestly just did like a YouTube search as far as free breakcore plugins, and this is one of the first things that came up, and like, God, it's fucking sick. Like, check this out. Yeah, so as far as options here, we have tape stop, modulator, retrigger, shuffler, reverser, crusher, gator, delay, and stretcher. Out of these, I'd have to say that my favorites are retrigger, shuffler, and gator. Those are the ones that, like, when I hear someone like Venetian snares or square pusher, it sounds like they're using a lot of that kind of shit. So then this metal kit is sort of just like a conglomerate of stuff that I found on Splice. And at this point, I have like over 3,000 Splice credits, so I figured I might as well use them, right? So I was looking for like a really modern metal sounding kit with like a triggery kind of kick, a really tight snare, and then I have like a crash, china, an open hat, a closed hat, and then 3 toms, and that's really it. So then there isn't any bass guitar until the tech death part. So prior to that, it's just going back and forth between 2 different synth bass sounds. Check this out. So those are all onboard synth sounds that I have in my Roland JDXI synth, like right here. And then as far as plugins, I'm pretty much just using stuff that Reaper already has built into it. I'm using a basic compression, EQ, and distortion, more like a fuzz. So then here are the vocals by themselves.
The robots are taking over! Everything is fucked! The robots are taking over! We are obsolete!
Oh, that low one though? Let's hear that.
We are obsolete!
Oh, I got a little bit of the hell yeah. So I guess the main effect that you're hearing on the vocal is this bit of distortion, right? It adds some sort of extra gravel to it.
The robots are taking over. Everything is fucked. The robots are taking over.
So if we were to hear that, just the vocal.
The robots are taking over. Everything is fucked. The robots are taking over. We are obsolete.
Just gives it a little bit more girth, some thickness, some aggression, you know what I mean? So then next up is the big tremolo section. So like I said, no bass guitar. You have this synth bass, then the other. So then what you're hearing on this Amen break is exclusively stuff that I programmed using the Korg Volca sample. So, couple key things. You're hearing the pitch of the snare change, and then you're hearing the time stretched fill at the end, and then you're hearing a difference between a normal amount of decay versus a short decay. And then tech death section. So then this is your basic sort of metal band configuration to where it's drums, guitar, bass. And this is where the bass guitar actually comes in. And that is this guy. Check this out. And when I was tracking this, I was really hoping that I would get that really grindy bass sound for that sort of brr, brr, brr figure, right? And this particular plugin, the bod, did the trick. Check this out. Let's just hear that drums and bass. It's just grindy as shit. So then the beginning section repeats, and that's pretty much the whole song. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to Obsolete. If you want the tabs for Obsolete, they are available in the Brantreon. The link is in the description. And Cluck Norris says bye. All right, bye.